I mean, I'd already been raised in a very traditional, Hindu family, and so there was the faith, but I didn't really kind of embrace that till I really had needed some help.
Bhavesh is a medical doctor based in Los Angeles, where he finds many opportunities to explore spiritual growth.
And then I just started to sort of see that it was more mind and brain based, but I had to get into the heart. Mm-hmm. And I saw that through my patients, from the suffering, their suffering, and then I went through some really difficult times in my life. And that's what they say is, one path to spirituality is suffering.
Suffering is a subject Bhavesh knows well, working in medicine as a pain specialist. Bhavesh follows Amma Sri Karunamayi, and Sai Baba comes to him in his dreams. Welcome to Souljourns, short but sweet, a brief interview recorded in Sunnyvale, California, in July 2017.
So I'm a first-generation Indian. I was born and raised here in America, and as you know, it's almost like double majoring in college right off the bat. You don't ask for it, but sometimes your parents want you to do things, and you want to do your own thing, and just your peer pressure. So all that sort of, I had to kind of overcome that, and during my education was one kind of escape from that. So I actually focused on science and, became a doctor with God's grace. And then I just started to sort of see that it was more mind and brain based, but I had to get into the heart. Mm-hmm. And I saw that through my patients, from the suffering, their suffering, and then I went through some really difficult times in my life. And that's what they say is, one path to spirituality is suffering. So I had some suffering in my life. I had some issues with...
Some will say it's the most important path.
Yes, and unfortunately we have to experience that. A lot of life is experience, and it's not always positive experience. Sometimes it's difficult experience, very painful experience. And so I went through that, whatever it is, karma or just my own fault or someone else's, whatever. But I had to go through that, and that sort of pushed me into... I'd already been raised in a very traditional, Hindu family, and so there was the faith. But I didn't really kind of embrace that till I really had needed some help for myself, mm-hmm. not for my mother, not my father or anyone else, but I had to really experience that.
And those points come into all of our lives at one time or another.
Yes, and not when you expect them and not when you want them. No one wants them, but certainly even if it's not like, well, okay, now I'll do it 2 years later. So no, it's like now you're going to have to deal with it. Yes, with everything else going on, and that's how it is. I think for me was God's grace as I embraced spirituality, and that's where I met Mother. And that was, thankfully, for me, a path out of that suffering and into the light, really. I'd always try to be positive, but to really live that and to find a pathway to there. So there could have been other pathways I may have taken, but thankfully it was the one of spirituality.
And how does that add to or serve you as a physician?
Yeah, so it tremendously, because what I do is, there's a lot of draining that happens to a person who tries to give. Without knowing how to take care of yourself. And you learn a lot in medical school, but you don't really learn all the basics of what it is, who you are, mm-hmm. what you're here for. You're taught a curriculum, you're taught to serve, and there's a great service that we do as physicians, but the caregiver needs care as well. And spirituality and meeting Amma and Mother's, techniques and meditations and pujas and just prayer, it makes me more calm, centered, and so I can then serve the patient better. And I think that's really healing for the patient as well as myself, so I can keep going. And again, Amma's example, look at all the traveling she does and serving, and all kinds of people come to her.
I don't know how she does it.
She's like a cosmic physician herself.
Endless days, endless hours, traveling, endless people.
Absolutely.
I'm talking 12-hour days. I've seen her go with new people every minute of every hour, and at the very end she's as fresh, if not more so. Right,
and so like the clinic I work in right now, we treat pain, and I'm a pain specialist, and so I do adult medicine, pain specialty, some med legal, I do a lot of different things, but we have a scheduled clinic and a walk-in clinic. People can walk in at any time, even at the last minute on a Friday, which happens a lot.
Drained.
Yes, and so then, I have to say, well, hey, Amma's doing all this stuff, she's traveling, what am I complaining about? I need to really be here, and so it helps me focus, and I also do meditation that helps me typically in the mornings, which kind of gets me connected, because people come to you and they're not always in a happy mood.
Yeah.
And they it's not their fault, but you take on a lot of stuff.
Well, they could be in pain, and
physically,
that would test all of us.
Emotionally, psychically. So just the meditation, just learning, to be humble and to appreciate what you have. Mm-hmm. And what I do is really I'm just a tool. And someone was here to meet me, and I'm here to do what I can for them. Some people, you can't have an ego about it. It's not like you're going to help somebody this much. You can help somebody only this much. Sometimes all they need is to be heard. They don't want any help from you. They just want to be listened to. Give your attention, your time, your ears, and that's all I want from you. I don't want medication. I don't want this, and sometimes you can help, you just don't know who's coming. So you have to keep yourself fresh for each person without getting jaded or cynical or have an expectation like, oh, this is going to happen, or this person looks this way. So there's all these biases we have, and we just gotta kind of detach from that and say, this person's here in front of me and I got to do what I can for them right now, and without being attached to it.
Amma models that better than I think anybody I see in the world today, and she does it. She uses words, but transcending the power of her words is the radiance of her love.
Yes.
And that's a combination that really captures people I see who are attracted to her, including myself and Jody, my wife. My question to you, Bhavesh, is I would think there would be many, many more people captured by that love. And I'm always puzzled. I want to get out there and shake the trees and have people become more aware that she's here and available.
Right.
But maybe it's not time for many people.
Yeah, so that's one thing I believe, like, it happened that way for me, is it wasn't, because I sometimes I feel almost frustrated or a little bit, like I regret not meeting her when I was a child, because a lot of these kids are playing around her. I'm like, oh, I would have been great for me. I would have avoided all these mistakes I made and all these, things supposedly. But everyone, I think, really, what I believe is everyone maybe not.
They could be said as the tools that led you to Amma.
Correct. So then now I've learned to experience, like, you sort of embrace the experiences you've had, because that's who you are today because of, and then that's what led me to Amma. So I mean, I think that, I believe people have their time to meet her. And sometimes, you try to do all the public relations and, getting the word out about the programs. But I really believe people who are meant to meet her at a certain time will come. And it's their time. And you have to have some faith and belief about that. But I think that's really...
She does so much love on us, we feel guilty almost. And she does it to so many people.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, you don't have to meet her physically to be benefited by her. She's praying all the time for world peace and doing homas and all these things, and people who know nothing about her are benefiting.
Yeah.
And with the world, the way the situation is now, I mean, you can imagine.
It's the most stress-filled world I think I've ever known in my entire life.
Right. So there's healing and all that going on.
Last question. It's obvious she's had an impact on your life. If you had to describe it to a fellow physician or a neighbor or a sibling or a cousin who's not on this path at all, how would you describe the impact she's had, how she may have or may not have helped to transform your life?
Well, yeah, so it's really first of all hard to put in words, although I will try, because it's more of an experience in the heart. And it just transforms you. It makes you want to serve, not just as a physician, but as a person. I mean, I think we're all members of society. We're all part of the world, and it's like we need to have a certain role in our community, in our family. We have a lot of roles, and just that to be committed to that by her example. She served so many people, and there's so many roles. She runs, educational charities and other medical camps and like all kinds of things, and yet she's able to be a mother to someone who's crying in front of her, like you said. And
that's what she seems to want to be the most.
Yes.
Think of me as your mother.
Well, the mother-child bond is very special around the world, and so to have that model of thinking of God or spiritual
and
causes,
it's not to diminish in any way, shape, or form the impact of your own biological mother. You could have another mother.
Sure.
And she is that for many, many people.
Right. Yeah. She's all our cause, like universal mother, and that's really the universal motherhood is really what she's even trying to talk about at the United Nations.
She knows, of course, that Jody and I come from the tradition of 20 years of Sri Satya Sai Baba. And her eyes light up. She told us, Sai Baba? Yes, I know Sai Baba. My parents knew Sai Baba. When I was an infant, he came to Bangalore as a guest in their house and picked me up and carried me around the room.
Wow.
I say this because you tell me, a follower of Amma Sri Karunamayi, that Sai Baba, who left his body 5 years ago, comes to you in your dreams?
Well, he has come to me in a dream. It's not something I expected or anything. It's always beautiful when things happen that are great that you don't expect. So it's happened to me, and he actually, there was a nice dream. I was somewhere in a temple in forest in India. He was in his orange robes, and there was a beautiful white sort of temple, like a couple of stories, and I was going up the steps, and I saw him from the back. He was sort of sitting there, and I pranamed. I sort of came to him, and he said something like, he almost stopped me from pranaming to him, and he said, go meet mother inside, she's giving darshan. And so that was like a great dream. I was like
well, I've had a very successful long 44-year career as a journalist, Nothing in any of those years combined match the feeling I have when I'm around Amma, when I'm around Sai Baba.
Right.
These are teachers I wish I could just bottle and share with everybody I know.
Well, they show the door to your heart and how to open it.
Yeah.
And then it's open and love just flows.
Bhavesh, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Jai Karunamayi.
Jai Karunamayi.
करुणामयी माता की जय 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 करुणामयी माता की जय